Zwolong is considered one of the earliest known members of the Tyrannosauroid lineage. This small predator provides insight into the early evolution of the Tyrannosauroid clade, which was characterized by much smaller body sizes before evolving into the giant predators of the Cretaceous. It was relatively small, estimated to have been about 3 meters in length. It had a gracile build, likely making it a swift and agile predator, well suited for hunting smaller prey. Despite its small size, Zwolong displayed several anatomical features that are characteristic of later tyrannosauroids, including certain aspects of the skull and the proportions of its limbs. As a small theropod, it likely preyed on smaller vertebrates, such as lizards and small mammals, or even juvenile dinosaurs. Its sharp teeth and agile build suggest it was a fast and active hunter, possibly using ambush tactics. Dilong was a small theropod dinosaur, measuring about 1.6 meters in length, but it is believed to have been a juvenile and could have grown to over 2 meters. It had simple feathers or protofeathers, as seen in fossilized skin impressions near the jaw and tail, which likely served for insulation rather than flight. Unlike modern birds, these feathers lacked a central shaft. Adult tyrannosaurs had pebbly scales instead of feathers, suggesting that juveniles might have had feathers for warmth, which were lost as they grew larger. Brain case scans indicate that Dilong had an S-shaped brain protected by thin meninges, unlike Tyrannosaurus, which has a more linear brain protected by thicker meninges. This is probably a size-related trait, as it is in crocodilians. The large flocculus of Dilong suggests it was agile and had good balance, while small olfactory tracts suggest that its sense of smell was not as refined as that of Tyrannosaurus and other more advanced tyrannosauroids. Eutyrannos is distinguished by several unique features in its holotype specimen, such as a notched dentary with a dorsally directed prong, lateral furrows on the dentary, a concave surangular with foramina, and teardrop-shaped ulna and radius cross-sections. The fossilized specimen was disarticulated, with many skeletal elements scattered, indicating it was immature. Preservation quality was low, leading to difficulties in identifying some bones, including a misidentified ulna that was later recognized as part of the tibia, affecting early reconstructions. While some features were initially thought unique, they are actually common among Tyrannosauroidea. The specimen, measuring 4.5 meters, likely represents a subadult, as its bones were not fully fused. Susquetyrannos was a small early tyrannosaur, likely reaching around 4 meters in length. One fossil was 3 years old when it died, and tyrannosaurs tended to grow at a rate similar to humans. It had a relatively large brain for its size, suggesting it may have been quite intelligent. It was likely covered in fluff or protofeathers, with potentially more elaborate feathers on its arms. As a carnivorous theropod, it likely fed on small animals, including smaller dinosaurs like Xenoceratops. Fossils of young individuals found together suggest it may have been social, living in family groups or small packs. As a warm-blooded animal, it would have been active, using its energy to catch prey. It likely cared for its young, which aligns with the social behavior inferred from the fossil evidence. The ecosystem of the Moreno Hill Formation, where it lived, was a wet floodplain with dense forests and diverse plant life. Susquetyrannos is an important transitional species, showing the evolutionary shift from early slender tyrannosaurs to the massive predators of the late Cretaceous. Further study could reveal more about this rapid evolutionary transition. Guanlong was a relatively small theropod, reaching 3 meters in length and 125 kilograms in body mass. This bipedal Saurischian theropod shared many traits with its descendants, and also had some unusual ones, like a large crest on its head. This crest was thin and fragile, suggesting it wasn't used for defense but likely played a role in display, possibly for attracting mates or signaling other members of its species. It had 3 long fingers on its hands. Aside from its distinctive crest, it would have resembled its close relative Dilong, and like Dilong may have had a coat of primitive feathers. Multiple Guanlong skeletons were found together, suggesting the possibility of social behavior or at least that they lived in groups. This discovery contrasts with the more solitary nature often attributed to larger tyrannosaurs. Both juvenile and adult specimens of Guanlong have been found, allowing paleontologists to study its growth patterns. The juveniles had proportionally larger crests compared to their body size, suggesting that the crest might have played a role early in life, possibly for social reasons. Proceratosaurus name refers to how it was originally thought to be an ancestor of Ceratosaurus, due to the partially preserved portion of the crest of Proceratosaurus superficially resembling the small crest of Ceratosaurus. Now, however, it is considered a coelurosaur, specifically a member of the family Proceratosauridae, and amongst the earliest known members of the clade Tyrannosauroidea. It was a small dinosaur. In restudy at 2010, total length of 3 meters and body mass of 30 kilograms are estimated. It possessed a nasal crest, which may have served as a display organ but also possibly served to reduce bending stresses on the skull when biting. This may indicate it used a puncture-pull strategy for hunting prey. However, Proceratosaurus was likely not a big game hunter, lacking the bone-crushing teeth and extremely powerful bites of the tyrannosaurids. Instead, it possessed an elongated skull, commonly found in basal coelurosaurs and basal tyrannosauroids. Calescus was another generic tyrannosauroid from the Middle Jurassic, about 165 million years ago, making it a very basal tyrannosauroid, and one of the earliest ones. It is known from a partial skull which includes a crest rising up from the snout. It was found in the Krasnoyarsk Krai in Russia, and given the sparse materials for it, very little can be said except for its basal position in the Proceratosaurid group. As usual, it was probably covered in feathers. Calescus also shares with Proceratosaurus nares inclined posterodorsally at a 40-degree angle to the skull. It is distinguished from other Proceratosaurids by the anterior rim of its maxilla being confluent with the ascending process of the maxilla and gently sloping posterodorsally. Eutyrannos was a large predator, measuring around 9 meters long and weighing over 1 ton. It had a long snout, a high crest on its nose, and a lightweight skull with hollow openings. Its tongue was flat and fixed, resembling a crocodile's rather than a bird's. Eutyrannos had 3-fingered hands and powerful legs with a muscular tail, making it a formidable hunter. Its most fascinating feature was its long, shaggy feathers, covering most of its body, making it one of the largest animals known to have feathers. As a carnivore, it fed on smaller dinosaurs and other animals in its environment. Multiple fossils suggest it may have been somewhat social, possibly living or hunting in groups. Its feathers likely evolved to help it survive the cold climate of the Ischian Formation, which had an average temperature of 10 degrees Celsius. These feathers may have also been used for display, much like its prominent skull crest. Eutyrannos lived in a humid, coniferous forest with distinct seasons, surrounded by lakes and volcanic activity. Eutyrannos was one of the largest members of this group, and as such it is possible that it falls outside of the Proceratopsaurid group, as it has some features of the groups of tyrannosaurs that would later evolve into the tyrannosaurids. It is also entirely possible that tyrannosaurids evolved from Proceratosaurids, and the traits of the group are just common to all early tyrannosaurs. Xiangguanlong was a mid-sized tyrannosauroid estimated to be about 5 meters long and weighing between 200 and 270 kilograms. Its holotype suggests it was fully grown, with closed neurocentral sutures. It was larger than earlier tyrannosauroids like Guanlong, indicating a gradual increase in body size among these dinosaurs during the Cretaceous. It had body proportions similar to Aeoliormus and was the largest predator found in the Chiago Formation, though it lacked the powerful bite of later tyrannosaurids. This species likely filled a mid-level predator role, as no large carnivores have been found in its environment. The Xiago Formation, part of western Gansu, in China, was a coastal or near-coastal region during the early Cretaceous, with lowlands and lakes present. The region's fossil record includes waterbirds with preserved soft tissues, indicating anoxic lake conditions. Ziyang Guanlong's discovery helps trace the evolutionary changes in tyrannosauroids. The hind limb of Electrosaurus is notable for the particular elongated digits and metatarsals, differing from other tyrannosauroids. These traits are found in terrestrial runner birds, suggesting that it was suited as a fast-running dinosaur with well-developed hind limbs. Probably a pursuit predator. This interpretation is consistent with the results obtained in the limb proportion analysis performed by Scott Persons and Curry in 2016. By comparing the limbs of numerous theropods, they noted that most tyrannosauroids were highly cursorial and leggy animals, with the exception of giant and stocky-legged forms such as Tarbosaurus. Electrosaurus was recovered with a relatively high cursorial limb proportion score at 16.5, higher than most carnosaurs. In 2001, a study conducted by Bruce Rothschild and colleagues examined 23-foot bones referred to Electrosaurus for signs of stress fractures, but none were found. It was a medium-sized tyrannosauroid, reaching a length between 5 and 6 meters, and a weight ranging from 450 to 900 kilograms. Tymerlengia was likely a pursuit hunter with blade-like teeth for slicing through meat, based on its skeletal remains. The robustness of the semicircular inner ear canals might be related to a greater agility. It has a long cochlear duct, with the same height as the labyrinth, an adaptation to hearing low-frequency sounds. This might be an indication that the animal used low calls to communicate within the species. The brain case of Tymerlengia shows that tyrannosaurs likely developed their advanced head first, as hypothesized by Hans-Dieter Suess, one of the fossil's describers. Tymerlengia's skull, though much smaller than that of Tyrannosaurus, shows a sophisticated brain that would have led to keen eyesight, smell, and hearing. At the time tyrannosaurs were developing acute senses and cognitive abilities, other large meat-eating dinosaurs such as the Carnosauria were disappearing from the environment or dying out, creating a vacant niche, allowing tyrannosaurs to become apex predators. Apolykiosaurus is unique in that it is the first tyrannosaur discovered in the eastern United States, which is, obviously, a unique characteristic. It was found in the Demopolis Chalk Formation in Alabama, and lived in the late Cretaceous, about 77 million years ago. It is known only from the partial skeleton of a juvenile, which was 7 meters long, so an adult would be even bigger. Its forelimbs are poorly known, so it's unclear whether or not they were small and two-fingered like more advanced tyrannosaurids, or long and three-fingered like more primitive ones. It has tooth marks on its bones from the crocodile Deinosuchus, which also show signs of healing, indicating it survived the attack. It most likely had feathers. A 2020 study of the endocranial morphology of Bistaheversur shed some light on its hunting behaviors. Its large olfactory bulbs indicate a very heightened sense of smell, while the elongated semicircular canals implied increased agility and sophisticated gaze stabilization while the head was moving. Bistaheversur also possessed binocular vision, allowing it to see much better than more primitive predatory dinosaurs. The study noted that, while it had small optic lobes, this was not a strong indicator of whether or not this dinosaur possessed poor vision. Bistaheversur differs from other tyrannosaurs in the possession of 64 teeth, an extra opening above the eye, and a keel along the lower jaw, among many other unique traits. The opening above the eye is thought to have accommodated an air sac that would have lightened the skull's weight. Raptorex was initially thought to be a small, juvenile tyrannosaur, but it turned out to be a fully grown adult. It measured about 3 meters in length and weighed around 60 to 80 kilograms. Despite its small size, it had many of the same body proportions as its much larger relatives. It had a large head, powerful jaws, tiny arms with only 2 fingers, and strong, long legs. This suggests that the tyrannosaur body plan evolved at a small size before scaling up in later species. With its small size and tyrannosaurid features, it was likely a highly efficient predator. Its strong legs would have made it a fast runner, and its powerful jaws were capable of delivering lethal bites to prey, despite its smaller size compared to later tyrannosaurs. Some paleontologists speculate that Raptorex might represent an evolutionary dead end, a branch of the tyrannosaur family that did not give rise to the larger, more famous species but instead shows an early experiment in the evolution of the group's characteristic traits. Gorgosaurus was a large tyrannosaurid, slightly smaller than Tyrannosaurus, measuring 8 to 9 meters in length and weighing 2 to 3 tons. Its skull was large yet lightweight, featuring fused nasal and parietal bones and a circular eye socket, distinguishing it from other tyrannosaurids like Albertosaurus. Its powerful bite force, estimated to range between 600 and 42,000 newtons, depended on the specific study, highlighting variability in bite strength across tyrannosaurids. Juvenile specimens indicate they experienced rapid growth spurts and dietary shifts as they matured, likely consuming smaller prey like centipeds even at larger sizes. The species showed a significant ontogenetic shift in skull morphology and dietary habits by the age of 5 to 7 years. Gorgosaurus shared its general body plan with other tyrannosaurids, having a massive head, small forelimbs with 2 functional digits, and long, powerful hind limbs suited for running. Its tail served as a counterbalance to its heavy head, aiding in its agility. Paleopathological studies on Gorgosaurus specimens revealed numerous injuries, including healed fractures and bite marks, suggesting intraspecific conflict and physical trauma were common. It exhibits a clear evolutionary path toward the robust, bone-crushing predators seen in later tyrannosaurids, with evidence supporting significant behavioral and anatomical changes as individuals aged. Albertosaurus is a notable tyrannosaur, often portrayed as a smaller relative of the more famous Tyrannosaurus. It was a large carnivore, reaching up to 10 meters in length and 4 meters in height. Unlike Tyrannosaurus, Albertosaurus did not overlap in time with it. This dinosaur had a massive bipedal build with small arms and a deep skull designed for a powerful bite. It also featured short bony crests above the eyes, possibly used for display or courtship. It is well known from a variety of fossils, including a bone bed in Alberta with 22 individuals. This site has provided valuable insights into its growth, revealing an S-shaped growth curve similar to humans, with rapid growth between ages 12 and 16. Most specimens found were adolescents, indicating high juvenile mortality rates and possible fossilization biases. The bone bed suggests that Albertosaurus might have hunted in packs, living in family groups that included adults, subadults, and juveniles. It inhabited a wet environment filled with peat swamps, lagoons and floodplains. Aleormus was estimated to be around 6 meters long and weighed approximately 700 kilograms, with some variation in estimates due to potential fossil deformation. The skull was characterized by its long and low shape, typical of more basal tyrannosauroids and juvenile tyrannosaurids. The nasal bones were fused with 5 upwardly protruding crests, and the nuchal crest at the back of the skull was thickened, similar to other tyrannosaurids. Research suggests that Aleormus did not use the puncture-pull feeding strategy typical of larger tyrannosaurids but may have targeted smaller, nimble prey, avoiding competition with larger predators. Its gracile build and different feeding strategy likely allowed it to specialize in different prey compared to its larger relatives. Kyohtsaurus was a medium-sized tyrannosaurid, estimated at 6 meters in length and 750 kilograms in weight, with some estimates suggesting it could reach up to 9 meters. It was distinct from other tyrannosaurids due to its highly narrowed premaxilla, pneumatic opening on the maxilla, and lack of a vertical ridge on the ilium. Unlike traditional tyrannosaurids, it had an elongated snout with narrow teeth. A 2022 study suggested that Kyohtsaurus represented the largest and most mature Luterman, with unique growth patterns and a physiology suited for pursuing fast prey. It likely hunted small, nimble prey and avoided competition with larger tyrannosaurids. Its jaws, being weaker compared to larger genera, suggest a different feeding strategy, and it may have been preyed upon by larger tyrannosaurs. These tyrannosaurs remained confined to Asia, though reasons for this are unclear. Recent studies indicate that Kyohtsaurus experienced lower stresses during feeding and did not use the puncture and pull method typical of larger tyrannosaurids. It is known from the Nanxiong Formation. The main lithology of this formation is composed by purplish mudstones and siltstones, deposited in a floodplain environment under a relatively warm, humid subtropical climate. Oviraptorid eggs are particularly common across the formation, with numerous well-preserved egg clutches or nests, as well as nesting individuals. Pterodophonius was a smaller tyrannosaur, only about 6 meters long, but this could have been a juvenile specimen. Furthermore, it was unique in that it lived in the southern half of North America, and not the northern half like most tyrannosaurids of the time. It lived alongside the Tyrannosaurids Bistaheversur and Albertosaurus, however, pushing the known range of tyrannosaurids into that area. It had a very blunt snout and a deeper skull, allowing for stronger jaw muscles and a larger bite force. It lived along the western interior seaway, near large channels of water, floodplains, peat swamps, ponds and lakes, and bordered all around by highlands. This created a very humid climate and a very diverse community of organisms. Lythranax was distinct from other tyrannosaurids due to its shortened, broadened skull and forward-directed orbits, a feature shared only with Tyrannosaurus and Tarbosaurus. This skull morphology, appearing by at least 80 million years ago, enhanced its binocular vision, providing better depth perception by increasing the separation between the orbits and aligning their lines of sight. Kent Stevens suggested that similar orbits in Tyrannosaurus might have facilitated either pursuit or ambush predation by improving the ability to track prey or judge the timing and direction of attacks. Lythranax would have had a large body, powerful jaws, robust teeth, reinforced skull sutures, and small forelimbs. Its strong bite force was capable of both tearing flesh and crushing bone, with the stresses managed by the fused nasal bones and reinforced sutures. Initially, Nanuqsaurus was estimated to be 6 meters long, about half the length of Tyrannosaurus rex, with a weight of 500 to 900 kilograms. This smaller size was thought to be an adaptation to its high-latitude habitat. However, later studies suggested Nanuqsaurus might have been similar in size to other North American tyrannosaurids like Albertosaurus, with some evidence indicating it could reach lengths of 9 meters. Nanuqsaurus likely resembled other large tyrannosaurians like Daspletosaurus, sharing similar roles in their ecosystems. Anatomically, it was characterized by a thin, forked median spur on the skull, long pointed processes on the frontals, and much smaller front teeth compared to the rest. Fossil evidence from the Prince Creek Formation indicates that this region preserved a high percentage of young dinosaurs across 7 major clades. This suggests Nanuqsaurus and its prey stayed in the high-latitude region year-round, enduring 120 days of winter darkness. It is proposed that eggs were laid at the start of the daylight period around April for incubation. It lived during the Edmontonian faunal stage of the early-late Maastrichtian, at an estimated paleolatitude of 80 degrees north, experiencing extreme climatic conditions with temperatures ranging from 10 to 12 degrees Celsius in summer to about under 2 degrees Celsius in winter. Unlike its herbivorous contemporaries, which preferred different environmental niches, Nanuqsaurus appears to have been widespread throughout the Prince Creek landscape. From a comparison of the degree of wear of teeth of Daspletosaurus with other extinct and extant animals, it is concluded that Daspletosaurus, as well as other non-avian theropods, had lips that protected the teeth from external influences. Due to this feature, the snout more closely resembled lizards than crocodiles, which lack lips. A skin impression has been described, showing small polygonal scales measuring 3 mm in diameter. The placement of the scales on the body is not known. There are indications Daspletosaurus possessing integumentary sensory organs, possibly used in touch, modulation of precise jaw movements, temperature reading, and prey detection. The large flat scales may have further protected the snout during prey capture and intraspecific combat. Evidence that Daspletosaurus lived in social groups comes from a bone bed found in the Two Medicine Formation of Montana. The bone bed includes the remains of 3 specimens, including a large adult, a small juvenile, and another individual of intermediate size. At least 5 hadrosaurs are preserved at the same location. Geologic evidence indicates that the remains were not brought together by river currents but that all of the animals were buried simultaneously at the same location. The hadrosaur remains are scattered and bear numerous marks from tyrannosaur teeth, indicating that the Daspletosaurus were feeding on the hadrosaurs at the time of death. The cause of death is unknown. Curry speculates that it formed a pack, although this cannot be stated with certainty. Zuchingtyrannus was another large tyrannosaur, fairly closely related to Tarbosaurus, from the Shandong province, in China. It is only known from a partial skull, however using data from the other large, later tyrannosaurs, we can estimate a lot about this dinosaur. It was probably about 11 meters long and a little less than 4 meters tall. It lived in a floodplain that had one of the highest concentrations of dinosaur bones in the world, living alongside Sinosauropods, hadrosaurids, and ankylosaurs. It was also found alongside the remains of another, unidentified tyrannosaur. It was an extremely large theropod, and was noticeably different from Tarbosaurus in the features of its skull. It also possibly had some of the most distinctive teeth amongst all tyrannosaurs, with serrations running all the way down the base of the tooth crown. However, the two are sister taxa, and it is strongly implied that Asian tyrannosaurs represent a different evolutionary radiation from the American varieties. Tarbosaurus was one of the largest theropods from Asia, reaching lengths of about 10 to 12 meters and weighing around 4 to 5 tons. It is often compared to Tyrannosaurus due to their similar size and build. It had a robust skull with a deep, broad snout, and its teeth were large and serrated, ideal for slicing through flesh and bone. It also had a pronounced ridge on the upper jaw that may have strengthened its bite. Similar to other large tyrannosaurids, Tarbosaurus had forward-facing eyes that provided excellent binocular vision. This would have given it superior depth perception, aiding in hunting and capturing prey. It had strong, powerful jaws capable of delivering a tremendous bite force. Studies suggest that it could exert a bite force of up to 35,000 newtons, which was strong enough to crush bones. Like its relatives, Tarbosaurus had relatively small, yet functional forelimbs with 2 claws on each hand. Despite their reduced size, these arms were still muscular and possibly used for gripping prey or mating displays. As a large predator in a potentially harsh climate, it may have had adaptations for regulating its body temperature. The specific mechanisms are still a subject of research, but its large size would have helped retain heat in cold environments. Its skull had large openings that reduced weight while maintaining strength. These openings also housed large sensory organs, including those for smell and hearing, enhancing its predatory capabilities. Although there is no direct evidence of social behavior, some researchers suggest that Tarbosaurus may have engaged in pack hunting or territorial behaviors, similar to other large theropods. However, this remains speculative without clear fossil evidence. The environment it inhabited was a semi-arid region with seasonal variations. Evidence suggests it had a mix of river systems, floodplains and desert-like conditions, which would have influenced its hunting and survival strategies. As the archetypal theropod, Tyrannosaurus has been one of the best-known dinosaurs since the early 20th century and has been featured in film, advertising, and many other media. Tyrannosaurus was a bipedal carnivore with a massive skull balanced by a long, heavy tail. The most complete specimen measures 12 meters in length, but according to most modern estimates, Tyrannosaurus could have exceeded sizes of 13 meters and weighed 9 tons in mass. Although some other theropods might have rivaled or exceeded Tyrannosaurus in size, it is still among the largest known land predators, with its estimated bite force being the largest among all terrestrial animals. The abundance of fossil material has allowed significant research into many aspects of its biology, including its life history and biomechanics. The feeding habits, physiology and potential speed of Tyrannosaurus are a few subjects of debate. Recent studies have uncovered evidence of soft tissues in its fossils, such as proteins and blood vessels. In 2023, researchers identified preserved collagen and elastin, which provides insights into the dinosaur's biology and evolution. Advanced imaging techniques have provided new insights into the growth patterns. Studies using CT scans of fossilized bones have revealed that it grew extremely rapidly during its adolescence, adding around 2 kilograms of weight per day. Studies of the internal structure of the skull suggest that this dinosaur may have produced low-frequency sounds, possibly similar to those of modern crocodiles. These vocalizations could have played a role in communication or territorial displays. It was a hypercarnivore with a specialized diet. Isotope analysis of its teeth and bones indicates that it primarily consumed other large vertebrates and may have played a crucial role as an apex predator. It had exceptionally keen senses of smell and sight. The olfactory bulbs in its brain were well developed, suggesting a strong sense of smell used for hunting and scavenging. Although traditionally viewed as solitary, some recent studies propose that Tyrannosaurus may have engaged in complex social behaviors. Evidence from fossilized bite marks and growth patterns suggests possible social interactions or group dynamics. Research on some specimens has revealed evidence of parasitic infections, such as bone infections caused by bacteria. Recent research supports the idea that it was an opportunistic feeder, engaging in both active hunting and scavenging. Evidence of bite marks on fossilized bones suggests it fed on carcasses as well as live prey. Advances in 3D modeling and digital reconstruction have provided more accurate depictions of its skull structure. This includes detailed analyses of the skull's internal features, helping to refine our understanding of its feeding mechanics and sensory capabilities. It might have engaged in complex behaviors, such as territoriality or social interactions. This is inferred from evidence of potential nesting sites and interactions with other species.